Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of To the Victor Go the Spurs podcast. I know it's been a little while since I posted, but I figured we'd start this back up. And what better way to start than let's go through our biggest winners and losers of the 2025 NBA offseason. Who's doing well? Who's crap in the bed? We're going to talk about it all. So let's kick it off with the top 5 biggest winners. Well, guys, I'm the Spurs fan, so I would have to go there. Number 5 biggest winner of the NBA offseason, San Antonio Spurs. So number one, they did a small thing, adding Luke Cornett to 4 years, $41 million contract, which is honestly great. If you watched the Spurs all last year, you know that anytime Victor Wembanyama was not on the floor, these guys did not have a competent center. They fell apart as soon as he left the floor, and part of that's because he's arguably a top 10, top 5 player in the NBA already at 21 years old. But just getting a competent center honestly is going to make such a big difference to that team. Getting somebody who can defend a little bit, rebound. Cornette's a really solid player. He knows his role. He's a really good backup playing for the Celtics for a number of years now. Get him on a relatively cheap contract, 4 years, 41, 10-ish a year. Nothing crazy there. So good to see the Spurs getting some front court help for Victor Wembanyama. But I think more importantly, if you think about this Spurs team, so that they've during the regular season, right at the trade deadline, they made the trade for De'Aaron Fox, and they used some assets. They got him for relatively cheap relative to maybe what you would call market value. Um, but there was a lot of talk as, hey, should they go after KD? Should they go after Giannis? Should they go all in, so to speak? And I think if you've watched this team and if you know this team, you know that it's a super young cast of players. You've got Steph Castle, who's 2021. You've got Victor Wembanyama, who's 21. Jeremy Sohan's 22, 23. Devin Vassell, even though he's been in the league a few years now, is 24, 25 maybe. And even that, even as talented as they may be, adding Fox, having Wemby, are they really going to win an NBA championship next year? And as a diehard Spurs fan, I think the answer is probably no. And you have to be realistic about it a little bit. And so, did it really make sense to go all in on Kevin Durant? Did it make sense to give up multiple draft picks, to give up Jeremy Sohan and Devin Vassell, two young players that the Spurs believe in and are growing into their roles and seem to be performing admirably? I mean, we'll see. Both had injury-shortened seasons last year, but you don't really know what those guys are yet. And a 37-year-old Kevin Durant, yes, it's going to impact winning today. And yes, the Spurs would be miles better next year with Durant on the team. I think that's completely inarguable. Another 7-footer playing next to the 7'5" freak that's Victor Wembanyama, it would be something special. But is that team winning a title? I don't think so. And so does it really make sense to go on KD and hamstring yourself when Wemby's actually ready to compete for titles in 3 years? And I think that is ultimately what made this decision for the Spurs is, do you really want to put yourself in a situation where in 3 years all of a sudden you can't really build this team around Wemby when he's actually ready to compete for a championship? So Solon said he wins the race. And oh yeah, by the way, these guys lucked into the second pick of the draft and drafted Dylan Harper, who would be arguably a number one pick in probably 60 to 70% of drafts in NBA history. So that's a pretty good consolation prize. Let's just continue to build around the young guns. You had a 19-year-old 14th pick. They get Carter Bryant, who seems to be a perfect 3-and-D fit for them. Didn't score a lot at Arizona, but he's a really good defender. His shots, it seems manageable. Maybe he'll turn into a sniper down the road, but just keep building bit by bit, piece by piece, brick by brick. And eventually, I think this team will be competitive. And I wouldn't put the playoffs out of reach. As a Spurs fan, I fully expect them to be back in the playoffs this year, or at the very least the plan. I think that should be the expectation. Those playoffs and get some playoff experience for Wemby, Fox, and the crew, and see where they can go. So number 4 biggest winner. I think this is one that makes a ton of sense. The Eastern Conference title contenders, or the ones that are left, that is. Um, Over the last few weeks, we've seen Jason Tatum go down with Achilles injury, Tyrese Halliburton go down with Achilles injury, and all of a sudden you're left with a completely wide open race in the Eastern Conference. I mean, if you look at it, your top teams coming back are what? The Cavs, who have had no playoff success write home about without LeBron. They made it to the second round this year and then got completely ran by the Indiana Pacers in a 5-game series. You've got the New York Knicks, who, they've been competitive. They just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then you've got teams like the Magic who said, "Screw it, we'll go all in. Let's trade 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bain. Get off that terrible KCP contract. Oh, by the way, maybe that one didn't work out so well. Maybe the Nuggets were right. Kind of the Jokic effect, right? These guys leave Nikola Jokic never the same. But Desmond Bain, Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Magic saying, "Hey, screw it. We think we can win this whole thing. Why don't we go in? We can we'll mess around, win the East. Who are we afraid of? The Cavs that we took 7 games with no offense to speak of 2 years ago. Are we scared of the Knicks, who seem so reliant on Brunson that they just don't know what to do when he's not on the floor? And oh yeah, by the way, they keep getting run into the floor by their coach. Now, granted, they got rid of Thibodeau, but do we believe in those guys with 2 defensive liabilities and Cat and Brunson? They're not scaring anybody. All of a sudden, the Eastern Conference is wide open, and the Cavs, Knicks, Magic, maybe they are not top 5 teams in the league. Although you could argue the Cavs, at least regular season wise, would be. But all of a sudden, somebody has to make the finals from the East. Somebody, and who knows? Maybe with an easier Eastern Conference, there's gonna be a bloodbath out West. Do one of those teams go get lucky and play a battered down team from a Western Conference champion? Who knows what can happen? And so I think you've seen that these teams have sort of gone all in and said, "Hey, let's give it a shot. Let's go." Cavs mostly keep their team together. They add Lonzo Ball. They do lose Ty Jerome, but all things considered, they're bringing back basically the same team, and they have as good a shot as anybody. Pacers out of the way, Celtics out of the way. Who's going to scare you now? The third biggest winner. Well, as a Spurs fan, this is honestly a little bit depressing, but the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, that's right. That 26 pick swap and that 27 unprotected pick, not looking nearly as good as it did 2 weeks ago, guys. I thought we were in for some lottery luck. Give us some AJ DeBonsa, whoever's coming out in 2027. I don't know if that's Cam Boozer or who it may be, but gosh darn it, I was hoping they were going to suck. But man, the Hawks have made some savvy moves, let me tell you. So first, they get Kristaps Porzingis for a late first to get off the Terrence Mann money, who $15 million for Terrence Mann. Not the worst contract, but also not the best contract either. That's a good one to get out of. Get Kristaps Porzingis, who knows what this guy's going to be. He's probably one of the biggest wild cards in the NBA. 2 years ago, he was phenomenal for the Celtics, and then didn't really play much in their finals run as he got hurt in the playoffs. This last year, who knows what happened? He was sick, I guess, and sort of just kind of disappeared. And then when he played, he was terrible. But he's a 7'3" guy who can shoot, is a really good defender. He's 29, still relatively young. And can you imagine Trey throwing lobs to that guy? Whew, that's gonna be gross. And then adding really good moves on the fringes. Nikhil Alexander Walker, who's a really, really good wing defender. Now, you think about the lineup that those Hawks can run out there. They can run out a, a, a lineup with basically all world defenders plus Trae Young. You've got Dyson Daniels, who's arguably the best guard defender in the league right now. Nikhil Alexander Walker, really solid defender. Jalen Johnson's got some defensive chops himself. Throw a Kongu at the 5, and suddenly the Hawks can run out lineups where they can really effectively hide Trae Young. Trae can power the offense. And all of a sudden, this team was looking mighty, mighty frisky. Oh, and by the way, that's not even discussing about the gift that the Pelicans just gave these guys. Yeah, did y'all see that? More on the Pelicans later, but an unprotected 2026 first? That's the better of the Bucks and the Pelicans? What? Why? I, the fact that the Hawks were able to move down only 10 spots and picked up an unprotected 26 first. Guys, I checked my phone like 5 times when I saw the Shams notification of the trade. I was like, surely is this like one of those knockoff accounts? Am I getting scammed here? Like, shoot, I wouldn't even make that trade in 2K. It's like a trade you would make in 2K when you're like, hey, I'm not going to play the next season. I'm only playing this season. I just care about the rookie now. I'll just punt next season. Who cares about that pick? Like, What? An unprotected 26 first? Are you out of your mind? Oh, and by the way, who knows if this is true or not, but the Hawks moved back 10 spots and get Asa Newell, who they were potentially going to take at 13 anyways. So they get their guy and and plus because he's 10 picks later, they get to pay him less, which sucks for Asa. Sorry, dude. But and they pick up an unprotected first next year? Not in like 5 years. Next year? On a team that just won like 25 games? What? Goodness gracious. More on the Pelicans later, but what a heist from the Hawks. Brilliant move. And gosh darn it, those picks owed to the Spurs don't look nearly as good anymore. Real bummer. Real bummer. Moving on to our number two biggest winner of the offseason. Look, they've always been sort of my second team since Jokic has been there, but the Denver Nuggets. Finally, guys, finally, we've been asking them for years to add some depth around Nikola Jokic. Just give him like a sixth man, a seventh man. Have somebody backing him up so he's not playing 45 minutes a game and just exhausted by the time he reaches the fourth quarter in a playoff game. They do a couple great moves. So they trade Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. Yes, they have to give up the 2032 unprotected first. Yes, that can be something that they'll regret in the future. But guys, you've got Nikola Jokic. He is the best player in the world, and he's been the best player in the world for 3 years. You gotta push your chips to the table. And I've heard a lot of people say that they think Michael Porter and Cam Johnson are basically the same player, and I don't know if that's really the case. Both are really good shooters, but if you've watched Michael Porter Jr., look, he's overcome a lot in his career, back injuries, injuries galore. He's a hard worker. He's pushed and accepted a role for the Nuggets. He hasn't demanded the ball, but good lord, is that dude a black hole? You pass him the ball, he's never seen a shot he don't like, right? He's gonna take it, and that can be great. And you need that fearlessness sometimes, but really, if you think about the Nuggets, their bread and butter is ball movement, everything hovering around Jokic. And so, yes, Porter was a really good shooter. And yes, Cam Johnson's a really good shooter too. I like to think Johnson's got a little bit more um, of a off the dribble game. He can be a little bit more creative. He's a little bit more willing passer and willing to play the role. Porter did a great job within his role, but maybe to make that extra pass. And I think that in of itself, I think is an upgrade. And truthfully, Michael Porter Jr., as much as he tried defensively, he was just not a good defender. And having multiple guys you can pick on in the playoffs is just a recipe for failure. And so Cam Johnson, not going to act like he's Dyson Daniels or anything out there. He's an okay defender. He's serviceable, so to speak. But adding him out there, he has to guard what, the third best player on the other team when you have Aaron Gordon on the floor and Christian Brown. So all things considered, you can survive that. And more importantly, they saved $17 million. And yes, I know you're thinking, guys, like these are all billionaire owners. They make tons of money. Who cares about $17 million? It's like chump change to them. It's like if I found $20 on the floor, they're like, oh, cool. But really, what it matters is the roster building that it enables for Denver. And it opened it up a couple of things for them. So one, they're able to dump Dario Saric to the Kings. Dario Saric was a terrible signing last summer. Terrible. I don't know what Calvin Booth was doing. Terrible signing. They're able to flip him to the Kings for Jonas Valanciunas and finally get a backup center for Jokic. That means that hopefully you can survive 10, maybe 15 minutes in the playoffs with Jokic off the floor. And that is such a blessing. If you follow these Nuggets over the years, it's always been as soon as Nikola leaves the floor, the team collapses. They go from the best offense of the league to the historical worst offense of the league every year after year after year after year. And when you get to the playoffs, Jokic has to play darn near 48 minutes, guys, because every minute he's off the floor, they fall apart. He's played the full second half of playoff games several times over the years. And if you add a guy like Valanciunas, he's not going to go play 35 minutes and carry you to a victory, but he's going to make the Jokic minutes survivable. Now, there's this rumor that he might go to some team in Greece. Lord have mercy if that happens. I'm going to be very upset as a Nikola Jokic fan because, gosh darn it, he would be a really good backup to Jokic. So hopefully it stays. and then making moves on the fringes. And honestly, the power of friendship shining through. Bruce Brown coming back home, saying, "Hey, Nicola, thanks for the 2 years, 45 million you earned me a few years ago. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna play for the vet men for Bruce Brown. Look, he's not an all-world player, but he's a really solid role player. At least he was with the Nuggets. A vet min for Bruce Brown is an absolute steal. Another kind of gritty defender. He can handle the ball a little bit, play a little bit of backup point guard, and he just knows how to play off Jokic and play with these Nuggets, and that's something that's really invaluable. If you've looked at the teams and who's been successful, the Pacers are the biggest example of this, but chemistry really, really matters in the NBA, and adding a piece that has been in the system before, knows how to play off Jokic, has won a title before, that's invaluable. And then throwing in Tim Hardaway Jr. on a vet min as well. Like, look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Tim Hardaway is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he's a really good shooter. And you know what the Nuggets lacked last year? They lacked shooting. They had Michael Porter Jr., they had a little bit of Jamal Murray, but they didn't really have anybody that could shoot outside of that. And so they were what, like 29th, 30th in the league in three-point attempts. Expect that to go up with a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., who can get him up in a hurry, who's going to be a spark plug off the bench, just gives a little bit more of a scoring punch. And not only that, but you put a little bit more pressure on those young guys. Hey, you got to step up. You're not going to just get minutes. I know it's cliche saying, hey, young guys got to step up. They got to play better. But having a veteran presence around them to kind of guide them and also to push them and be like, look, like if you want to play, you need to outperform the veterans. That's a really valuable thing in the NBA. And maybe we'll see some growth from a Julian Strawther, from a Peyton Watson, from a Jalen Pickett, and maybe those guys will step into their roles. But even if they don't, the Nuggets have what? A solid seven-ish players that they can play, and that's really invaluable in the playoffs. Finally, let's move on to the biggest winner of the offseason. And yes, I don't like this team either, guys, but the Houston Rockets, what a offseason they've had. They get Kevin Durant for honestly what I think amounts to almost nothing. Jalen Green, who is an overpaid, like, what is he, guys? He was a number two pick, and if he wasn't the number two pick, he probably would have had no value. But this guy was a number two pick. He's a high volume, low efficiency scorer. Doesn't make his teammates better. Doesn't play any defense. So what are they really trading away? I know he's 23, talent, potential, all that. Everybody loves talent, but until the talent turns into something, then what is it? They trade away Jalen Green. They trade away Dylan Brooks, who, yes, was in many regards the heart and soul of this team last year. So sort of a big loss. But 3-and-D guy, you have the chance to add Kevin Durant. And if you watch the Rockets last year, you know that the biggest concern with them was their offense. The defense was incredible. I think the second best defense in the league over the course of the season, only behind the Thunder. You have Amin Thompson, you have Tari Eason, you have Fred Van Vliet, you have Jabari Smith, you have a bunch of really good defenders, solid defenders who wreaked havoc on the court. You had the Terror Twins and Amin and Tari. They were great defensively. But they would get to these end of these games and they looked all around and were like, do you want to take the shot? You want to run the offense? Like, what do you do? And it ended up with Fred Van Vliet step back threes and discombobulated possessions, and nobody knew what to do, and they couldn't score late. Team couldn't close out games. It was a big problem. Well, you know what they just brought in? They brought in Kevin Durant, who's one of the best scorers in NBA history. One of the guys that you say, "Hey, here's the ball. Go make something happen. Go get a bucket." There are only a few of those guys in NBA history who can get a bucket as easily as Kevin Durant. The late in the shot clock possessions, the hey, bail us out, the end of game possessions, it's hey, we need a shot, we need a bucket. And even at 37, it's almost impossible to block that Durant jumper. And adding him to a mix of these great defensive minded players around him, and all of a sudden, the Rockets are probably the biggest threat to the Thunder out west. Maybe this side of the Nuggets. I'd argue the Nuggets have some play there. But to add Katie for pennies on the dollars, and then to add to that, so Dylan Brooks was a huge loss. Then they get Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a very, very similar player, maybe a little bit less of a ball handler than Brooks, but a decent defender, good wing defender like Brooks was, and a decent three-point shooter. So you basically replace Dylan Brooks' production with Dorian Finney-Smith. So then, if you think about it, really the Durant trade boils down to Jalen Green, the number 10 pick this year for Kevin Durant. And I'm doing that 10 times out of 10, guys. I don't care who you are, but with this defensive lineup around him, adding Kevin Durant to the 2 seed in the West, guys, remember they were the 2 seed in the West. I know nobody expected them to do anything in the playoffs, and they lost in the first round to the Warriors, but they were the 2 seed, guys, and they just added what a top 20 player in NBA history. And yes, he's 37, and yes, he's going to have some injury concerns, but they've got depth galore. They added Capella, they re-signed Jabari Smith and Fred VanVleet to extensions. These guys are true title contenders. Nothing else to say about it. They have a chance to win the title, and a what will be a bloodbath for Western Conference. Who knows who's going to make it out? The Thunder are absolutely the prohibitive favorites after all they did this last year, but the Rockets are right there to contend and to fight them for the Western Conference title and potentially for the NBA title. So we just started with the positive. Well, now the fun part. Let's talk about the biggest losers of the offseason. The teams that maybe either didn't do enough or just made completely boneheaded moves. So starting off top five, number five on the list of biggest losers, Los Angeles Lakers. Oh boy. Well, I guess when you're in Hollywood, you just want to be a center of all the drama and all the chaos. And goodness gracious, they did it again, guys. One, they just let Dorian Finney-Smith walk for nothing. The guy that isn't he really good friends with Luca? Does that concern anybody? That Dorian Finney-Smith they traded for, they gave up a bunch of assets for him mid-season. He's supposed to be a really good friend of Luca, and he just walks out the door. Does that give anybody any pause? Is that Nico Harrison saying, "Hey, maybe I was right about trading Luca"? No, Nico, you're still stupid. You should have gotten way more for him. Don't even go there, Nico. You didn't have some grand vision. But Dorian Finney-Smith walking for nothing is very concerning if I'm a Lakers fan. He was a key piece, and yes, you might say that in 4 years that contract is going to look a little rough. And I hear everybody saying, "Well, but they got Jake LaRavia for like a third the price." Well, cool. There's probably a reason Jake LaRavia has been traded, has moved teams twice in the last 6 months. He's a good young player. He might be able to play a little defense. He might be able to replace some of Dorian Finney-Smith's attributes, but he's not Dorian Finney-Smith, guys. And did they? Did I miss something? Did the Lakers not realize that they don't have a center on the roster? Did they? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. I think Rob Pelinka, he's calling me. He said that he just realized that they didn't have a center. Oh, but there's this DeAndre Ayton guy. Oh my gosh, we just got him for $8 million a year. We've won the offseason, guys. DeAndre Ayton. There's a reason the Phoenix Suns were contenders and said, "We're good. We're good. DeAndre, we'll trade you for Yusuf Nurkic and a bunch of crap. We just go away, leave the team." And oh yeah, he was what owed 30 million this year by the Trailblazers, and the Trailblazers said, "Hey, here you go. Here's your money. Just leave our facility." Yeah, you want to bring that guy into your team? I mean, yes, I know he was a former number one overall pick. He had a bunch of talent. All this dude does is play Call of Duty and not try and rebounds. Yes, I'm sure you've seen the clip of him just standing in the corner, out of bounds, watching. Oh, sorry, I forgot I was supposed to be playing basketball right now. Yep. And don't worry, at least, guys, at least you know that there's going to be no icy roads in LA, so he probably won't miss any games for icy roads. Yes, there was icy roads in his neighborhood, so he just didn't play last year, which props to him for staying safe, but also, do you think you could have gotten driver or somebody to get you to the game? You only played millions of dollars to play basketball? All right. Stay safe, everyone out there. I'm not saying to drive in bad conditions, but yeesh. So is he even good? Does he shoot the ball well? No. He's not really a lob threat for Luca. He doesn't really play much defense. He puts up stats, I guess. Hmm. I guess he's an upgrade over Jackson Hayes. Yeah. Oh, and that's not even to mention what is going on with LeBron, guys. This whole I want to see. I mean, look, he does this every offseason. The I want to see improvements on this team. He opts into his contract and puts out this statement about some convoluted, hey, I want us to be pushing for the to win now, and has he requested a trade? But there's not really a trade market for him. Oh, and by the way, his son's still on the team, so like, is he just the dad that's just making everything awkward for his son at work? Now Bronny's being asked questions about his dad. Oh boy, what a mess. Lakers drama again. Well, I guess ESPN gets their wish. They get to talk about the Lakers all day. Enough about the Lakers. Let's go to their arch rivals. Number 4 on the list, the Boston Celtics. It feels not that long ago we were talking about how great the Celtics were as they hosted the 2024 championship with basically no threat in the East or in the finals. And just like that, a year's gone by and the Celtics are no more. They unceremoniously let all of their centers walk. Talking about teams that didn't realize they needed centers. Um, doesn't seem like the Celtics realize they need a center because Horford looks like he's going to the Warriors. They trade Porzingis to basically just a salary dump, get back Georges Niang, ish, and then they just let Kornet walk, which yeah, he would have been a good fit on this roster. He was a really solid player. They didn't want to pay him. Second apron is really wreaking some havoc there, guys. And then they trade Drew Holiday, who was pissed, by the way, and done so much for the team, helped lead them to a championship in 2024. Trade him to the Blazers. Oh boy. Well, I guess that's what happens when your best player tears his Achilles. It's just really sad to see a team that was on the mountaintop a year ago, basically dismantling their team from the inside out and throwing in the towel. It sucks for Celtics fans. It sucks to see a team that was so good just recently, who we thought had a chance to repeat as title contenders this year, until they ran into a bust out of the Knicks and Tatum tore his Achilles. Sad to see, but second apron wins again, guys. All right, number 3 on the list. Goodness, Brooklyn Nets. You have well, 5 first round picks. Okay. Did you don't have to draft all 5 players, right? Like you can trade those. Did Sean Marks know that? Hey, yeah, Sean, you can trade draft picks. Did you know that? You don't have to just acquire them and draft players that aren't that good. You could have traded it for a future pick, maybe, maybe. Just saying. Well, the Nets took 5 players. I don't know if any of them are any good. Granted, I'm not some NBA draft expert, but Edward Dimon, Nolan Traore, Drake Powell, Ben Suraf, Danny Wolf. All I have to say is everything I've read is that, and I've heard is that this team did not exactly win the draft. You have 5 shots at the apple. Maybe one of them turns out, but goodness, can you imagine 5 rookies on the same team? I mean, we always hear about veteran leadership so important. You need veteran leadership to get these guys to know how to play the game the right way. And you just said, screw it, we're gonna take 5 rookies. Like what? Like I don't know, guys. I mean, what? Who's left there? Like Cam Thomas? Is Cam Thomas gonna be the vet, being like, "Hey guys, I know how to play. You just shoot as many shots as you want." Yeesh. I don't know about that. That's gonna be a little tricky. And also, one of the biggest assets they had coming into the summer was cap space. Well, what did they use the cap space for? To take $15 million per year Terrence Mann? Yeah, they got our first round pick and the 22nd pick out of that, but also they already had 4 first round picks before that. Did you need a fifth? Could you have gotten it in a future year? Uh, Probably. And then they trade Cam Johnson for $17 million more in Michael Porter Jr. Like, what? Why? Why? I guess the 2032 pick is nice, but like, are you drafting like a sixth grader? And I kind of hate the analogy of people being like, oh, you traded for a sixth grader right now. But I mean, is Sean Marks gonna have a job in 2032? That's 7 years from now. 7 years, guys. I'll be 35. Like, who knows what's gonna be happening in 7 years? Like, sure, it could be an asset down the road, but oh goodness, another draft pick. And who knows what team they have left around them? D'Angelo Russell goes elsewhere. 2 years, 13 million for the Mavs. Couldn't sign him again. It's gonna be Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, and just a bunch of chucked up shots from Cam Thomas left and right. Oh boy, Nets doing it again. But hey, they got 5 first round picks. Who knows? Maybe one's gonna hit. Number two on our list of biggest losers. It's been a sad day for all of those Giannis fans, but the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm sorry. What did they do to Dame? They did what? They cut him? My reaction was, am I reading that wrong? Am I getting scammed again? Surely they did not just cut Dame Lillard. No, they did. They did. He had 2 years, $120 million left on his contract, and they said, bye, Dame. Thanks for everything. Good luck. And not only they cut him, they stretched his contract over 5 years. Do you know that means he's going to be a $22.5 million hole in their cap sheet for the next 5 years? So 2 years after his contract's done, in 2020, what, eight, suddenly like they're gonna still have a $22.5 million cap hole for Damian Lillard. Oh boy. Well, for anybody that owns Milwaukee Bucks picks, Pelicans, Blazers, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself right about now. Yep, yep. Because the Bucks are not going to be good. And so you did all that to get who you must have gotten some incredible free agent, right? Miles Turner? Miles Turner? I mean, he's good, I guess. But that means you're effectively paying for Miles Turner $50 million a year? $50 million? I guess the Bucks realized that they needed a center, but they did just let Brook Lopez walk out the door for nothing. And I know he was old, but Miles Turner. So now your team is Miles Turner, Giannis, the complete abject mess that is Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent, good old Bobby Portis coming off the bench playing no defense again. And what? Do they realize that they need a point guard? Does anybody know that? No, nobody. Crickets, crickets. I think the Suns prove that you do need a point guard in the NBA. Oh boy, Bucks. I guess he kept Giannis happy, although I hear he's still contemplating his future. He's monitoring the situation. You know, all the favorite buzzwords in the NBA these days. Oh man, well, at least Dame's happy. He came out and said, "Hey, I'm glad I'm out of this place. I can go where I want now." Yeah, well, he got paid to go away. Shoot. I wish I was that good at my job. And number one on the list, we've talked about them before, but the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm so glad you got your guy in Derek Queen. But an unprotected first? What? Not only was it an unprotected Pelicans first, it was a better of the Pelicans or the Bucks, the aforementioned Bucks, who are an abject disaster. What? Oh, what a mess, guys. It makes me wonder how some of these GMs keep their jobs. Well, I guess they don't. But they had to have gotten the job in the first place. And look, Joe Dumars was an incredible player, Hall of Famer, but goodness gracious, should he be an NBA GM? That was just terrible. But but look, guys, we did make some good acquisitions in the offseason. That's right. We took the albatross of contract of Jordan Poole on. Aren't you proud of us? Oh boy, that guy, the guy who's just a generational shot chucker for the Wizards after Draymond punched him and he withered into nothing. You took on Jordan Poole. Hey, Bucks, here's a team with a bunch of point guards. DeJounte Murray, who I still really like, even though he's coming off the Achilles injury. Jordan Poole. Oh my gosh, guys. And Jeremiah Fears. Although, I will have to tell you, the Zero Fears jersey, that's going to be a top seller. That was a good move. No fears. I love it. Love it. But man, the Pelicans are a mess. They have the Bucks pick and they trade it away. And yeah, thinking about that pick, I'm just going to reiterate a team that just won 20 something games is going to give away an unprotected pick. Do you really think, New Orleans, that if you had said, hey, Atlanta, if we just put a top five protection, would that be okay? Do you think Atlanta would have been like, no, no, um, no, they would have accepted it. when the other team comes out and says, "We were absolutely elated at the Pelicans offer," do you think you made the right move? Here's my rule of thumb on these things, guys. If you ever were trying to make a trade and if you were to put yourself in the other team's shoes, if the other team has no hesitations and it's an immediate absolute yes, you're probably doing something wrong. And in this case, an unprotected first to move up 10 spots in the first round is an abject disaster, especially when you are this troubled of a team. And oh, by the way, that 23rd pick that they got, you know where they got that from? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. During the finals, randomly, one of the teams in the finals makes a trade. Conspicuously, the Pacers trade the 23rd overall pick this year for their unprotected pick back from the Pelicans that's next year. Oh boy, what a mess of luck that was for the Pelicans. They would have had the Pacers' unprotected pick in 26. And imagine how valuable that is now with Halliburton getting injured. Now, I'm not saying the Pacers are going to be the worst team in the league or anything like that. They'll still probably be a solid middle of the road team, but goodness, they went from having two unprotected firsts next year to zero. Super disappointing. And actually, we do have a small little bonus loser on this list of biggest winners and losers. Biggest loser, NBA continuity. Completely out the drain. Second apron is going to rule the day. Roster continuity be damned. Let's do everything we can to stay under the second apron. Boston's shedding salaries left and right. The Pacers, no way we can pay the tax. Whew, goodness. Miles Turner, again, he's not the greatest thing since sliced bread, but refusing to pay the tax for him. And oh, and by the way, even if they had kept Turner, the rumors were they're going to salary dump Benedict Mathurin, who practically won a finals game for you this year. What in the world? Continuity just not going to last in the NBA anymore. What windows are now shrinking 3 years max to compete, unless you're like the Thunder and you have literally hit the lottery like 3 times over, and you just have an insane amount of assets that you can dig yourself out of a hole. Look, I know the NBA struggled with having just consistent dynasties year after year. The Warriors just winning every year and it being a foregone conclusion who's going to play in the finals every year was not great for the product of the NBA. But goodness, parity to this level. One of my favorite things about the NBA is knowing who's on teams and being able to root for them and really build a relationship with those players and know your team and know your guys. And honestly, with the way the hard aprons are structured, there's going to be constant roster turnover and NBA continuity is just not going to be there unless something drastically changes. We'll see what happens in the league. I'd like to see this potentially changed in the next CBA. I'm not sure when that'll be, but roster continuity no longer there. Celtics have it dismantling their team. Pacers not even keeping some core pieces from their team. Just sad day in the NBA. So, what a fun and exciting 2025 NBA offseason it's been. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you so much for joining this episode of To the Victor Go the Spurs. Thanks, everyone.